Bonjour everyone, I am Anne-Lise Cailliez and welcome to Parlez-Vous CEO, where we teach the corporate talk and get real about entrepreneurship. Each week, I chat with founders and CEOs who build businesses their way, through the failures, pivots, and breakthroughs. And they bring the fire. Plus, I'll drop some golden nuggets of wisdom from my own entrepreneurial journey. This is your space to grow, learn, and evolve with a true growth mindset. Remember, success isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. Now let's kick things off and get this party started. Hello, bonjour, bonjour, hello, and welcome to another episode of Parlez-Vous CEO. My name is Anne-Lise Cailliez, and I am your host. For those who are just joining the podcast, we're Brandora. We specialize in helping real estate companies scale their revenue. If you want to learn how to take your business to the next level, make sure to stick around. And if you're interested in a free growth consultation, just drop the word growth in the DMs. So I'm very excited today to have Penny with me, Penny MacKenzie from Ontario. Penny works in residential real estate and she's grown 2 brokerage firms, one with 255 agents and one with 50 agents. In your own words, Penny, could you let our audience know a little bit about your story, your background, and how you came to doing real estate?
Sure. So my first career was as a hotelier in Toronto, and I worked for many years in the hotel business and loved it. But when I decided to have children, that became a little bit difficult to work full time. So when my second was born, I got my real estate license thinking that I could work part-time in real estate. And of course, that's quite a myth. You don't work part-time in real estate. You work more than full-time and you work different hours. So I got my license when my second child was born. And when it was time to go back to work, I told my boss I wasn't going to go back to the hotel. I was going to do real estate. He convinced me I could do my job in 4 days a week and still do real estate. So I went back to the hotel for 4 days a week for about 6 months and had to decide and finally said, I can't do both. So I gave up the hotel business. I was director of sales and marketing and moved into real estate full time because I'd already gotten busy with, 2 little kids, a brand new baby. Because in those days in Canada, we get a lot of time off with children. We get 18 months now, but in those days it was only 6 months. So I had a 6-month-old baby trying to juggle a job and real estate just was too much. So I chose real estate.
Mm-hmm. And so how long were you in the hotel business? And then you
18 years.
18 years. Wow. So how was the transition?
Well, that was really fortunate that as a hotelier, for most of those years, I was in sales and marketing. So I knew how to market. I knew how to market a property. I knew how to sell. I did a lot of sales, group sales. And so I was also involved with a couple of organizations, the Burlington Chamber of Commerce, I was very involved with, and Burlington Tourism. So those skills I translated into real estate and became heavily involved with the organizations to build my business. So I networked a lot in real estate. That's how I built my business. I was not a cold caller. I didn't door knock. I basically did business with people I know.
So you were already very good at doing networking and you already had the skills and marketing. So essentially the perfect profile to transition into real estate. And do you remember your first client, your first deal?
My first listing, I remember my first listing, not my first buy, but my first listing was my next door neighbor.
Mm-hmm. And how did that happen?
We moved in, we had little children. And Rachel, my daughter, was about 3 and she used to visit them all the time. She spent more time at their house than at home. So we became friends. And then when they decided to move, they hired me as their realtor because they knew me, they trusted me. And we sold their house. They now live out in Calgary, but we still have contact and are still good friends.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, the right next door neighbors as a first client, that's amazing. And so you already were a pro at building relationships. So what do you feel has been one of the strengths that you brought to doing real estate in terms of business development and methodology to find new clients?
So I think one of the keys in being a realtor is people don't understand that it's a business and you have to treat it like a business. I had always done budgets and marketing plans as a hotelier. So I just naturally did those as a realtor. I did my budget for the year. I did my marketing plan, what segments I was going to look at for new business. And then I had a marketing plan that I would outline by the year, by the month, the activities that I would do, how many events I would go on, even how many lunches I would have. I would have one lunch a week to meet with somebody. I started my own networking breakfast group, and that, developed into all kinds of other relationships as well.
So you were very strategic in how you started. You had a methodology, you knew what worked before, and because I think one of the challenges of a new agent is how do you start? Especially in the beginning, if you're not working with a top broker or senior broker, it can be really, especially if you're going from a normal job, a salaried position, to working for yourself, having that discipline and that structure is probably very hard for a lot of people. So I'm sure what you're describing now will be very helpful for our listeners. That structure, the deciding one lunch a week, starting your own group, having the methodology of thinking who's my target audience. So a lot of marketing principles that marketers know, but it's not common sense for a lot of agents who are starting in the business. But I think it's super important to be strategic with your effort and structured, especially in a business where, the line gets a bit blurred with personal, business, working time, personal time. So I think to keep sane, it's even more important, right? To find that balance and that structure.
It is. And when I started my career in real estate, DocuSign, none of that was available. So, you'd sit in your car, go from the sellers back to your buyers, back and forth to get the deal done. But it would be done in a night. And you had that face-to-face connection with a buyer and seller to get the deal put together. Today, even though it's easier to do your paperwork and with DocuSign, everything's digital. It's easy. But it's hard for agents to get deals put together because of that lack of human interaction between the seller's agent and the sellers and the buyer agent and the buyers. There's no connection between the two parties because they don't see each other face to face. So everything, is by text, phone call. People can take texts wrong. It's just really challenging, I think, for realtors in a technical world where there's so many tools to help your business, but you've lost a lot of the personal connection to be able to put that deal together. We see far more transactions fall apart now than we ever did.
Wow, that is so interesting. So it means at the edge of technology that's supposed to make your life easier and close deals faster, what you're seeing is it's actually slowing things down and making closing deals even more challenging because of that lack of human interaction.
I think so.
That's fascinating. And so you're a seasoned marketer. You were doing marketing before. Since you've been your broker, what are the worst and best marketing tactics or marketing events that you've done?
So marketing events for the brokerage really focus on agents. So when I launched Keller Williams in Burlington, there was no KW in this area. It was brand new. So I started by hosting events and inviting other agents. So that was my main marketing strategy to build the brokerage because I had to have 40 agents committed to join me before I could even apply for my franchise. So I hosted an event at the Holiday Inn. I had a lot of coffee with a lot of agents. One-on-one to tell them that I was launching this new brokerage. So that kind of marketing was either group or individual oriented. And then as we launched and grew, we, of course, started to implement a lot of social media in our marketing. Never any advertising or print or anything like it was. It's more event oriented. We used to hold trade shows when we first launched with all suppliers. And connect the suppliers with the agents and helping build those relationships, hosting training events that were of value to agents and inviting agents. When I launched in 2012, the day we opened, we had 20 agents, and then the rest joined over the next couple of months. And then we just kept growing and growing through that basic events, social media, information sharing, education strategy.
And so 40 agents is a lot of agents, right, to be able to set up your own shop. What do you think is the specialty? What is the thing that made you be able to attract so many agents to join you on this ride?
So when I first launched, I had 4 other people helping to recruit. And one of those individuals was very effective in setting up meetings for me. So they would set up the meeting, I would hold the meeting, and it really helped fast track it. So I did have support. It wasn't just me. But I also knew a lot of agents at the brokerage that I was at. A lot of the agents that I was with came to KW with me.
So that's fascinating because if you think of it, there's really 2 types of marketing. Hiring agents is B2B versus, attracting buyers and sellers is very B2C. First, which one do you like best and which one do you find the most challenging?
So business to consumer is really no different than to the realtors. There are parallels. So in my business as a realtor, to my clients, my sellers and my buyers, I had attracting them. I had different strategies there. Attracting agents, there's different strategies, but those agents are my clients, and that's how we treat them. And, my staff understand that the agents in our brokerages are our clients, and how we help them and support them is and service what they require is how we retain them.
I love hearing that. I've never heard that before. My agents are my clients. It's a very interesting angle. I love it. And on the B2C side, so for seller and buyers, what have you found in your career the most efficient to attract them?
To attract buyers and sellers was always through networking for me. For my agents, I've seen agents be really successful being, very heavy on social media, being a lifestyle realtor. I have one top agent who is very, very social media savvy in the way they market themselves, and the materials that they produce are very polished. I have another agent who specializes in farming and is now teaches farming to other agents. There are agents who are very heavy in lead generation online, either through websites that they contract with or social media, all kinds of different ways of generating leads through their church. A lot of people are very active in their church or a mom's group. I have one agent that's built a very powerful WhatsApp group for her neighborhood, and she built her business that way. So, it's not difficult, but it's not easy, and it's how much effort they put in, and it's the persistency and consistency of doing the work every single day. Because unfortunately, when you go to real estate school here, they may teach you some of the technical side of things, how to do, how to write an offer, how to do this, how to do that, but they don't teach you the marketing side of things. So we are very heavy in our education on, how do you attract business? What's the, how do you get new business? What are your different lead generation systems? And how do you build your database? Because your database is your business. And how do you market to your database? And without a database, you don't have any business. So you have to build it.
Absolutely. I love what you're saying about the different tactics and strategies that your agents have, and what you seem to say being that it doesn't really matter the marketing channel. What really matters is the consistency and just being on top of the channels that you're using. And that's what's the most important. And I completely agree with that, because an agent can be very good at networking and in person and loving that part. And others love social, love going on camera, putting content out there regularly, while some other rather do lead generation and work cold leads, which are very different than referral leads. A referral lead is someone is warm. It's a warm lead. You already know that person. You have a relationship. A cold lead is a completely different animal to work them, and not every agent is successful converting those. It's a different beast. And with your 2 businesses right now, if you had a magic wand to solve what the biggest pain point of these businesses, and can be two magic wand for each business, what would they be?
So if I had a magic wand for the smaller brokerage in Oakville, it would be that when we launched, we were allowed to launch as one brokerage and not have to have two separate organizations. It would have been nice to be able to have a branch office. That would have streamlined operations a lot. And then for the first brokerage that I opened, KW Edge, if I had a magic wand for KW Edge, it would be that how we manage the growth, that was the biggest challenge. If I knew how big we were going to get, I would have planned for bigger office because we had to add on a bit at a time. We started with 2,500 square feet. We went up a floor. I thought we would open with 2,500 square feet and stay that way for a long time, but that was not the case. So managing the growth was a very big challenge. So if I had a magic wand, I would have actually started with a bigger picture in my mind.
I love hearing that. And this is a great, I call them the golden nuggets of wisdom for our listeners who are thinking about starting an office. So your recommendation would be to think bigger and basically start to win and not be, because there is two mentality, right? You can do the things to win or not do the things not to lose. What you're saying is go big, like think bigger than you think initially.
It was for Burlington, that was the challenge. But if somebody else was opening up a brokerage, you don't know that you're going to be as successful as you are prior to. It really is dependent upon the market you're in, who's your competition, who else is out there. I mean, it was just perfect timing for Keller Williams to join in the market in Burlington. Because it was new, it was exciting, it was what agents needed. There was nothing else like it. So, but I didn't know that.
All right. How would you know? And what's your favorite thing about real estate?
My favorite thing about real estate is that knowing the value of a good realtor is gold, and that having really skilled realtors in the brokerage to help their clients get from where they are to where they want to be is the best. I'm also, really proud of the fact that, a lot of the agents who launched with us in 2012 are still with us today.
Yeah, that says a lot. Low turnover says a lot about the health and the company culture. So one, you were very successful at attracting agents. You're very successful at keeping agents, retaining agents. What do you think helps you keep them? Do you offer like very structured and very powerful training? I mean, I understand the mentality of we're treating agents like clients. I think that's amazing. And how about training?
So we have a monthly training calendar that we put out every month. It's really quite heavy on the training. So we have different events that we host. For example, just this week in my Oakville office, we hosted an event called the Golden Letter. And, the Golden Letter is a tool that agents will use to help buyers secure a property. And so we had a person panel and a moderator, and then everybody got to listen to how each of those agents do their Golden Letter. Events like that. We have top agent masterminds. So every other month, we have a top agent mastermind with about 25 of our top producers where they get to exchange ideas. For newer agents coming into the brokerage, I have a productivity coaching program that they go into for their first year. They can renew for a second year, but their first year is fully into productivity coaching. And they have one person that looks after them, after their training, their education. They have a full checklist that they have to complete of all the things that they need to do to graduate out of the program. So that's, training for new agents, experienced agents, top producers, teams. We would do specific training for teams, all of that sort of thing.
Wow, so they're really taken care of. Could you go back on the Golden Ladder? What is the concept? I'm curious. I love the name.
So the Golden Letter is, so I have a buyer who wants in a particular area, a complex, let's say a townhouse complex. So I will do my Golden Letter saying, hi, I'm Penny MacKenzie. I'm a realtor with Keller Williams Edge in Burlington, and I have buyers looking to buy a home in your complex. They are, I might name who they are, and that, they have 3 children and a lovely dog, and that they're looking to buy in the next 3 months. Are you thinking of selling your home? And there's 2 different strategies. I might go door to door with those letters. I might mail those letters individually stamped through the post office and then follow up. And hopefully somebody will put up their hand saying, yes, I'd like to sell my home. You'd be amazed at how much business is done off market by people approaching sellers for their buyers directly.
Absolutely, because I mean, in New York, owners are receiving constantly the same type of postcards, and it's always the same thing. It's impersonal, it's very generic. And I'm always like, why real estate has been, since forever, there's been real estate and real estate marketing. Why are brokers so lazy and making the minimum with the automation that they have at their brokerage? Where you press a button and it sends out like mailers, and that drives me crazy. I'm like, I think this is so lazy, and
it's a waste of money. Unless you're going to go door to door, you list a home, you've just listed it, you're going to go and visit all the neighbors with your just listed card saying, hey, I'm hosting an open house on Sunday.
right.
I'd like to invite you to come early. Come at 1:00 so you don't have to be with everybody else,
Absolutely. But I love how personal you're doing it, because that would definitely grab my attention. You're actually already talking about a buyer. So it's not abstract. It's not just another mail. It's like, oh, I can understand what that would be very potent and it would work very well. And how about role models or mentors? Who are you looking up to? Or is there an influence that you look up to and that you love consuming content from?
So I had great mentors in the hotel business. They were always my boss. And then when I came into the real estate industry, my first broker was extremely supportive, very, very helpful, but it was a very small brokerage. It was just a handful of agents, but I learned a lot from him, and he was a great mentor. But there was a time where I realized I had to leave the brokerage to build my business because I became single with 2 little kids. So I moved to Remax, where I really worked on building my business. And then I was with Remax for about 10 years, I guess. And that's when I launched KW. Sorry, I forgot your question.
It was about, no, you answered it. It was about your mentors.
Oh, my mentors, right. And for the brokerage itself, my mentor has been the Canadian director. So how I launched the business is I was in the car with my daughter. She was just turned 16 and she was learning to drive, and we were on the highway and my phone rang, and of course, she was driving. I was in the passenger seat. So I'm looking at my phone, looking at the road, thinking somebody might want to sell a house. I should be paying attention to what she's doing. But I answered the phone, and it was Diane Mitchell, who at that time was the Canadian director for KW Canada. And she asked if I would be interested in meeting with her to look at KW. And I thought, why not?
Yeah.
So I did. So we had a quick coffee at Starbucks, and then from there built the business. So Diane was the most instrumental in me building KW. And was a tremendous mentor. She is a powerhouse, a firecracker. She was one of the first to really help build KW in Canada.
Wow, I love that. And speaking of women mentors, so with your own observation of having female agents versus male agents, what are the main differences that you're observing in how they're working, or maybe their main challenges or obstacles they're trying to overcome?
I don't think that it's really a difference between male and female. Challenge. I see a lot of, it's more, you'll have a top female agent who runs a team. You'll have a top male agent who runs a team. It's more who they are, what their personality is, what their experience is, what their sales ability is, what their drive is, what their, that word grit that people sometimes use, how much grit do they have? So I don't see a lot of difference between male and female, but I do see a difference in consumers that, some consumers want to work with a female agent. Some consumers want to work with a male agent. So from that perspective, there is a difference.
I see.
But one of the things that we've always done over the years that agents love is we do a class on the disc. What's your disc profile? Are you a high D? Are you a high I, an S, or a C? And knowing who they are helps them understand who their client is and how to work best with their client. And typically the people that run teams are high Ds with quite a bit of I behind them. So drive and I never remember what I stands for, but I always say that I is the life of the party.
I is the life of the party. What could it be?
Nope, I'd have to look it up. S is security and C is compliance. So an accountant would be very high C and probably some S,
What is the name of that wheel?
It's called the DISC, DISC.
Like the wheel.
It's been around for a long time, but it's a fun tool and it's a great tool. So, if I meet someone that is not a high D, I know that I need to stop being so direct and so blunt and maybe just sort of try and soften up who I am to communicate with them a little bit more effectively. Interesting. I can be a little blunt at times.
Yeah. And so you feel you're able, when you see people's discs, and you're able to adjust your management style?
My communication style.
Wow,
when
that's
I know
amazing.
what somebody, because I can tell now by looking at someone what their disc is. Once I get to know them a little bit, I can quickly surmise that somebody is, a certain way,
I
certain
love
profile.
that. Yeah,
But we all have a little bit of some of everything. Like I'm a high D, I have some I, but I'm a rule follower, so I have C for compliance. My S is a little lower than others, but yeah, it's fun.
I loved hearing that. And Penny, if you had to meet your 20-year-old self and give her one piece of advice, what would it be?
I would have to say that it is to ask yourself, why not me?
I love it.
When I was young, I didn't realize that I had the potential, the leadership potential. I didn't understand that piece of it. I thought that belonged to everybody else. Know that your ability to run a business, open a business, start a business, whatever it is that you think you want to do, why not?
I love it. And so how did you understand that you could? How did you start thinking, why not me?
Because when I was in the hotel business, I was very young. I graduated young. I hadn't even turned 20 yet, I don't think. And by the time I was 22, I was the reservations manager at the largest hotel in Toronto. So I learned early on that I had the ability to run things and that I had the ability to see how things needed to work together to do what we needed to do. But I always thought I had to work for somebody else.
Interesting. So what was the flip? When did the flip happen?
A client of mine said that they wanted to invest in a real estate brokerage, and they were one of the few people that helped launch KW, asked if I was interested in working with him to open a brokerage. And that was that. I mean, so I actually went to Florida to visit him and his wife to look at another brokerage. And then when I got back is when I got the call from KW. So I'd actually already started thinking about it. So it was the difference between this brokerage, which was a small boutique style, or KW, which was large. The business model was a large brokerage and, easy, not so easy. So I went the not so easy route.
And so you work with coaches. Do you regularly work with different coaches? Can you tell our listeners a bit more about that? If they're in real estate, should they hire a coach, not hire a coach, or when is the right time?
Yes. So I have a call every Monday morning for half an hour with my coach. And I've had the same coach for several years. He is a KW MAPS coach. He's in, I think he's in Georgia, I believe.
You said the map coach?
MAPS coach. That's through KW. That's the division of Keller Williams that has coaching, mega agent productivity systems. So they have coaches for agents, for leadership. So mine is a leadership coach. And it's, he's been instrumental in helping me make certain decisions, the direction I might want to go with in terms of the business, So absolutely. That's one of the first things we say to agents, once you get to a certain ceiling and you want
Mm-hmm.
to break through that ceiling and get to the next level, how are you going to get there? Who's
Mm-hmm.
going to help you? We can certainly help our agents break through certain levels. My team leader, Tenley Piercy, is one of the best in working with our agents to help them get there.
Mm-hmm.
But there comes a level where they may need higher level coaching, different coaching. So we have MAPS coaching to help our agents that they can hire to help them with their business.
So leadership coaching, I love that. I actually never thought about hiring a leadership coach, but now that we speak of it, I'm like, of course, if you're building a team, of course. And so in an industry that's 24/7, how do you juggle keeping your sanity and at the same, how do you juggle that world, right? Personal and business and keep sane?
So for me at this stage, I mean, I've now been in the business for a very long time. I'm actually looking at what is my strategy for my next step and
Mm-hmm.
sell my business.
Mm-hmm.
And so where I am now is very different than where I was, 13 years ago. I was 24/7 with the business in
Mm-hmm.
building it. Now I have staff who are so good at what they do
Mm-hmm.
that if I don't show up, the business still runs really well. But I like to go into the brokerage, to meet the agents, to chat with people.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my favorite things to do.
And this is the sweet spot, I think, when you're reaching that level of you can go on vacation, you can not work for a week, and the business is still running without you. This is like to me, that's a definition of success. And so, what's coming up next for you, Penny?
So as I'm 66, so I'm thinking about, what's next for me? Do I sell the brokerage? Do I stay with the brokerage for the next, few years? So I don't know
Yes,
what's
either way,
next.
that's
I really,
either way.
but I like to travel. I go to Costa Rica for a couple of months every year. I'm going to
Nice,
Croatia at the end of the month for a couple of
nice,
weeks.
nice. Ah, that sounds awesome. And Penny, would you have any last golden nuggets of wisdom to share with our audience?
So I think for realtors in the business that are starting out, it can be very disheartening when you first start and you don't understand why you're not getting any business and they will give up. They'll try a little bit, they'll try a little bit more, but they get really, really discouraged by the lack of action that they get in their first few months. So it's not, there's no magic bullet, there's no magic red button that you can press to build your business. Unfortunately, it's just that day-to-day activity. The more activity you have, the more people you talk to, that's how you're going to build your business. And if you keep at it persistently and consistently over a period of time, you will get the business.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not easy. It really isn't.
Absolutely. And it ties back to what you were saying earlier. It's so coming up with a strong strategy and a structure on how you're going to use your efforts and keep safe, and being consistent at it and understanding that it's nothing is overnight and you're going to need the reps, and action trumps perfection. So talking to as many people in a strategic way with the right people and just keeping at it. So if somebody was just starting off, when do you think that they're allowed to give up, right? It's after 6 months, they're not closing anything. Do they stop after a year? Do they stop? Like, how would you go about this?
How long do you do it before you give up? It
Or do
depends on
you give
how
up?
deep. It really depends. So when I was getting my license, I called a couple of agents that were busy in the industry and said, what advice would you give me? And they all said the same thing. Make sure you have a year's salary in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't,
Mm-hmm.
but I did it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So for somebody who's starting in the business that wants to be in the business full time, you do have to have that financial cushion.
Right.
Otherwise, you're doing that working full time while you're trying to launch your real estate career. And that's where it becomes really difficult. But if you're not successful within that first year of every day you're doing work to build your business and you're not seeing the results, then maybe it's not the right career for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because really, it's not for everybody. It's just, like not everybody wants to be a doctor, a lawyer. Not
Mm-hmm.
everybody is cut out for real estate. But if you're willing to keep building and having those conversations with people about real estate, you can build a great career. You really can.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And so, Penny, where can people find you?
So I'm in Burlington, and my Burlington office is at Harvester and Walker's Line. And if they want to find me digitally, you can find me at Penny MacKenzie at kw.com or hiding today.
I meant online, if they want to find you online.
I don't really have a website for me anymore. You can find me on LinkedIn. So let me think. So you can find me online either on Facebook, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn. Those are my three main channels that I still work within.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Penny, for coming on the show today. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you, Anne-Lise. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being here on Parlez-Vous CEO and sharing your story with our audience. So many nice golden nuggets of wisdom were shared today. And I hope it really helps anyone who is thinking about starting in real estate or who is in the trenches in real estate and wondering how to structure the effort. And that wraps up today's episode. I am Anne-Lise Cailliez, and I can't wait to join you again next week. Thanks for listening to Parlez-Vous CEO today. If you enjoyed the show, leave a 5-star review. It helps us keep going. And connect with us on Instagram at Parlez-Vous CEO. I am Anne-Lise Cailliez, and I know some days are harder than others. On those tough days, think back to why you started. What you're doing today matters, even when you can't see the results yet. Ideas are great, but it's what you do with them that counts. Find everything we talked about today at parlezvousceo.com. See you next week, and you've got this.